My name is Aleksander Wierzejski and welcome to Poland Daily. Today marks the 30th anniversary of the beginning of proceedings for the Polish Round Table Agreement. On February 6, 1989, the declining communist authorities began talks with representatives of the Solidarity opposition. The Round Table was the symbolic beginning of the systemic transformation in Poland, which led to most positions in authority being filled by members of the Communist Party apparatus at the expense of society side. Magdalena Bałkowiec has more.
The events from 30 years ago still cause controversy and heated discussion today. For some, the Round Table is one of our greatest historical events. For others, treason. The moment when the communist nomenclature and part of the Solidarity elite took over the nation's wealth at the expense of society. In a recent interview with Polsat News, Polish President Andrzej Duda said that despite everything, the Round Table paid off. There were many things that could have been avoided. Many people suffered a tragic fate. The result wasn't completely positive, but positive nevertheless. If somebody asks if it paid off, I say it paid off. There were great moments. They should be commemorated with a monument of Tadeusz Mazowiecki. I hope the Warsaw Council takes such an initiative. Law and Justice Party politician Antoni Macierewicz has a completely different view, saying that the setup from 30 years ago still affects Poland's economy and development, and the Soviets used it to build a new structure, a middle class content with swapping political affiliation for the right price. It was a very difficult compromise that could only be accepted if turned into a victory, but that didn't happen. The rules of the game were changed to restore the apparatchiks of the Soviets. This is effectively what the Round Table did. According to politicians, one positive of the Round Table is that despite their differences, the opposition managed to sit down for talks with the communists. I had turned 18 and looked at the Round Table as a phenomenon, that two groups of people with extreme views sat down for a conversation. Then the agreements from the Round Table were turned upside down. It's good that there was no bloodshed, but in my opinion, too many compromises were made. Poland, who led the changes in the 80s, went to the back of the queue in terms of any changes actually occurring. Parliamentary elections didn't take place until 1991, and Russian troops were finally withdrawn from our country in 1993, says the president of the Institute of National Remembrance, Dr. Jarosław Szarek. The Round Table was certainly perfectly prepared by the communist authorities, because they retained their influence first and foremost in the special forces, the media and the economy. They may have moved out of the limelight, but their instruments of power have remained for many years. By winning in parliamentary and presidential elections, full power went back to the communist authorities. Talks at the Round Table ended on April 5th with a so-called agreement that, among others, allowed for the legalization of the Solidarity movement. Contractual elections to the same were signed, but only 35% of seats went to non-partisan candidates, and the remaining 65% to communists. Elections in June ended with the resounding defeat of the communists.
A Polish labor union Solidarity is retreating from the European Solidarity Center in Gdańsk. The president of the National Commission of Solidarity, Piotr Duda, said that the ECS is a politicized institution which is supposed to unite but separates instead. He also added that Solidarity has suspended its representatives in works for the ECS Council and Historical Council until further notice. Farmers of the Agro-Unia Association protested in Warsaw today. The group's leader, Michał Kołodziejczak, says that he doesn't have anything to talk about with the government and threatens a peasant rebellion. Kołodziejczak referred to the deceased leader of the former Samoobrona Party, Andrzej Leper.
Farmers from the entire country came to the capital to manifest their dissatisfaction with the government's agricultural policy. The protesters gathered in front of the presidential palace after marching through the city center.
We can't only talk. We spent 5 hours talking with the Minister of Agriculture, and we won't be talking without taking any actions. We have coffee and cookies at home. We don't have to come to Warsaw for it. We want concrete actions. The Polish state gave the biggest government grants for the matters concerning natural disasters, a lot more than Germany, so the answer is clear.
Despite the assurance, farmers are still protesting.
We don't need a political party. We have this party, so we should show that it is effective.
Among the postulates are the defense of the Polish market and limitation of imports of products from abroad. Farmers demand a more effective fight with the African swine fever. They also complain about the beef sale after the material shown in the TVN TV station. The president didn't meet with the protesters. The deputy minister in the chancellery of the president of Poland, Paweł Mucha, explained why earlier on the Polskie radio station.
Not all of it is in the president's scope of authority. These are the competences of the government administration, but if society has expectations, a meeting is organized out of respect for the protesters.
The chief of the chancellery of the president of Poland, Halina Szymańska, met with the protesters, but it didn't satisfy the farmers.
During her official visit to Japan, German Chancellor Angela Merkel talked about Brexit, Venezuela, and strengthening of German-Japanese relation. Unfortunately, she used some shocking words, stating that de facto only Russia stands between the borders of the two countries, marking them almost neighbors. Many political observers ask the question, what about Poland, the Czech Republic, and the few other countries? Only Merkel knows what she meant with her statement.
This offensive statement by Angela Merkel certainly won't improve relations between Germany, Poland and other Baltic states, which are already tense for a number of reasons, including the construction of the German-Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline and Merkel's forcing of an open-door migration policy in the EU. Now, the German Chancellor showed even more disregard for her country's neighbors, failing to even acknowledge their existence. Boris Reitschuster, a German journalist living in Moscow, took to Twitter to show his dissatisfaction with Merkel's words. Merkel in Japan. In fact, we're almost neighbors. Our countries are far away from each other, but there is only Russia between us. And what about Poland and the Czech Republic? What about Ukraine and Belarus? What of the Baltic states? Is Merkel an imperialist? The Polish Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Szymon Szynkowski, decided to give Merkel a lesson in geography. All you need to do is take a look out of the plane on the way back from Tokyo to Berlin. The journey leads through China, Russia, Estonia, Lithuania and Poland. Many political observers argue that whether it was just an unfortunate metaphor or an intentional omission, the one person who talks about unity in the EU the most should be more careful with her choice of words.
The funeral of Antoni Zambrowski took place today at the military Powązki Cemetery in Warsaw. Zambrowski was a great patriot, journalist, columnist for Gazeta Polska and the freedom fighter during the communist era. An honorary guard of the Polish armed forces escorted Zambrowski on his last journey.
Antoni Zambrowski, a wise and brave patriot, a splendid journalist with great knowledge and manners, a freedom fighter and a political prisoner of the communist regime has left us. A voice of an important witness of Poland's latest history has turned forever silent. He was a relentless defender of freedom and truth, but also of our country's good name, sovereignty and national identity, wrote the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, in a special letter that was read aloud at the funeral. Zambrowski passed away on his birthday on January 27th. He was 85 years old.
That was the news, but stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather and Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Paulina Otterstein. Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the temperatures will be from -2 degrees in the area of Katowice up to 3 degrees. In Gdańsk, 2 degrees will be seen in Koszalin, and some snow will appear in the northeast part of Poland, also around Olsztyn, Bydgoszcz, Poznań, but the rest will remain quite dry tonight. And now let's check the forecast for tomorrow. So tomorrow, quite a bit of sun in the lower parts of Poland. 6 degrees will be the maximum in Krakow, as well as in Katowice, 4 degrees in Lublin. Some rain and snow will appear in the northern parts, also in Szczecin, Zielona Góra, Poznań. Warsaw will see 4 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees in Łódź, and the wind will be blowing onto the north. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business tonight on drones. We will talk a lot about the new area of economy, only 10 years old, but growing very fast and probably will grow even faster. Małgorzata Darowska of Ministry of Infrastructure is our guest. Ma'am, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good evening.
And you are tackling the legislation behind the drones and how to make it part of the regular economy. What are the challenges in front of that?
There is a lot of challenges regarding drones. First issue is to integrate drones into the classical aviation economy, let's say, because drones are the part of aviation. And the first challenge and first concern that regulator has in this area is to make the traditional aviation safe and to separate the traditional aviation from drones. But this is just the first step. The second step is to regulate the market in such a way that drones will be used for the commercial purposes. Because if we are talking about economy, because we are talking about the economy, we cannot forget that drones will be used only if they will be helpful in the industry, in the normal, typical, classical commercial situation. So the second issue is that there is a gap, regulatory gap, because the traditional aviation does not recognize drones or starting to recognize drones. In Poland, we are leaders, worldwide leaders in this kind of regulations. So we have to determine which institution and will be responsible for the drone market. We know because it's Civil Aviation Authority and Airspace Navigation Services Agency. These are two institutions, but we have to entrust them new tasks. So this is the second challenge. And another issues are data protection, telecommunications, how to make drones, which are the part of Internet of Things, operating in the new environment.
Because these are three very fast-moving objects in a 3D space, and you first of all have to make sure that they won't crash to each other. Secondly, make sure that they will not violate privacy of other people. Most of all, they will not interfere with the regular aviation, because if something can go up to 2-3 kilometers or even a few hundred meters, it can actually crash with airplane and cause a safety concern. And also it's a huge programming challenge, because it's a technology, new, fast developing technology, and you are building a framework to make this technology safe.
Yes, exactly. In the European Union, European Commission, I'm a part of the expert team, and we are working on a new regulatory framework for drones. Exactly. So now this is a very initial step in order to make the bigger regulatory picture for the new
Did you
tool.
Produce the white book on drones? Yes. It consists of several parts, and this legislation part is only the first page.
Yes, the white paper we published yesterday with the Polish Institute of Economy and the Ministry of Infrastructure is composed of three parts. First is legislation, but not for drones, but for new, let's say, field of economy. We are calling them it U-Space. This is a European name, and we accept it. The second part of the white paper is U-Space services. So we are calling it UTM, Unmanned Traffic Management System, or DTM, Drone Traffic Management System, which is a totally new infrastructure for drones, which will be to some extent controlled by the state, but to some controlled will be on the market. And it will be connected with the new database. This is the second part. And this system will provide certain services to the drone users. And the third pillar of the white paper is the drone market we are seeing right now. But the white paper is composed in such a way to show the roadmap towards the use of autonomous drones flying beyond the visual sight of light.
If you made a attempt to calculate the impact on economy, what are the amount of money that we can talk just regarding the Polish economy 10 years from now, with fully developed commercial drone market?
As regards the economy, we have, let's say, two calculations. First calculation is about just the drone market, so about the tools and the systems, and the value of the market is calculated on 3 billion and 3.2 billion zlotys to 2026. And this is just the value of the.
So that's about 10% of our GDP.
Yes, but if we are talking about the impact on the whole economy, this is much more optimistic, because we took, let's say, three scenarios. First scenario is, let's say, the pessimist, and the value of the impact is about 310 billion zlotys to 2026. Moderate calculations is 576 billion zlotys, and the optimistic one is 910 billion zlotys. So
how did you come up to these numbers?
The number is calculated on the savings, of, for example, of the big industry, because comparing to we were talking about the use of drones for infrastructure investments. Just using drones for just go mapping, let's say, it's saving 1% of the whole investment. So if we are invest 100 billion, we save 1 billion. Another is about some incomes, new incomes from new services and new production to the budget of the state, and all is very, very precisely described by my colleagues from the Polish Institute of Economy in the white paper. So it's easily to everyone who is interested to check and to discuss with this calculation is free to do it, and we are waiting for any comments.
And this is very pioneering attempt of in a world scale.
Actually, the method of calculation is not pioneering. It's very similar, which is used by McKinsey, by PwC, and etc. So it's but nobody before has used it for the Polish economy, for the drone market.
So we will see how it will develop. Drone market in Poland will be regulated, and only to the benefit of the stakeholders of the market.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Małgorzata Darowska of Ministry of Industry, of Infrastructure was our guest tonight, and we spoke about drones. We keep fingers crossed that this will develop in Poland. Thank you very much for participating in the show, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Hello, I'm Paulina Otterstein, and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow in our country you will see quite a bit of sun in the lower parts of the country, also around Łódź, Warsaw, in the east, in Olsztyn, as well as in the west, in Zielona Góra. A bit snow will appear together with rain in the northern parts, also in Zielona Góra and Poznań. The rest should remain dry. 6 degrees will be the maximum tomorrow around Rzeszów, Krakow and Katowice, and the minimum temperature will be 2 degrees Celsius. And now if we look at tomorrow, we will see quite a bit of sun in some parts of Europe, like Zagreb, also Bratislava, as well as in Prague, -1 degree in Oslo with snow, and very warm in Dublin, 12 degrees, but with some rain. The warmest will be Lisbon, Portugal, 16 degrees, and up to 19 in the Athens. This is all for tonight. Thank you and good night.
In the beginning, there was only a screen that could provide her window into the world. However, it planted the seed for a passion to explore. It grew in Chojnowska-Lesiak until her desire became so strong that she could no longer stay put. Eva lived and travelled through China, to which she often returns. But she feels best in equatorial Africa, among simple people and wildlife. Between the Batwa pygmies in Uganda, the Maasai in Kenya, the Bedouins in the Sudanese desert, the dramatically dangerous White Nile rafting, chimpanzees on Negamba Island in Uganda, or mountain gorillas in Wiraguna Park in Congo. She has been to North Korea as part of her work, which she has visited more than once. She's not afraid of challenges and breaking her limits of endurance, which she proved during Polsat TV program Island of Survival.
Hello, welcome again to Poland Daily Culture. Today, our guest will be Eva Chojnowska-Lesiak, who is a traveler as well as a blogger and a tour guide. Hello, Eva, welcome.
Hello.
Is it difficult to be who you are and do what you are doing and have a family? Or even, it's also difficult, I can imagine, for having friends, because there's times where you're never there.
I think more people think I'm always abroad, because usually
That's what I think when I watch your stories.
Yeah, I think because usually I publish pictures from the trip, people think, oh my God, she's always abroad. But it's not like this. Of course, my family has a difficult life because I'm quite often off. But I really appreciate time when I'm back. And I try to spend maximum time with my friends, with my family. And this is the only challenge to show that I'm not only out. Because I also understand my friends that they like meeting quite often, and after some time they forget about me. It's not about I'm boring or something, but I'm not in Poland, and it's so difficult to find a solution to meet at the same time.
How many countries have you visited?
In general, I don't count, but I really count another thing, how many times I have visited Africa, and it's over 50 times.
Wow.
But the thing is, because I'm tour guide, I regular repeat my countries, so it's like 15 times in Ethiopia, 16 times in Kenya.
So you feel there like you're at home almost.
Really, yes, yes. And I think we can learn a lot from Africa, especially Polish people. We have quite difficult character, and especially with relationships, with smile, with happiness of life. These things I'm trying to put into people I travel with, and every time I meet my friends in Poland.
And which of the travels made the biggest impact on your life? Is that the one that you've mentioned and said it was probably your favorite?
I think all of them they put impact on me, because every trip is a kind of lesson. Every time I meet people and I experience new things, and I'm trying to put those lessons into my life. When you travel to poor countries where people are very happy with the very little they have, it's a good lesson. And I think it also gives me opportunity to limit my needs, material needs especially, and make my life more happy with relations, with friends, in the time we spend together.
So what would you say is the best thing you've learned so far, appreciating what you have?
I think to calm down and relax and slow down, and also to maybe not about only smile in general, but there is in Africa you can find a different smile, and they learn me also how to reduce distance into things and with people, And I think it gives you more happiness every day, because like if we talk with each other and you put a wall in between, you not really feel happy talking with this person. But in Africa, the distance is very limited, and people talk very often. They care about you. They always ask, how do you feel? Maybe you need any help. And I think those reactions I put into my life. Mm-hmm. And this is very important for me.
High heels in a backpack. Where did this name come from? Many years of her life have been more or less split between planes on their way to interesting places around the globe, hence the backpack, and work on sets as a model, where her beloved high heel shoes cannot be avoided. So it is a combination of what she does every day and what gives her great pleasure.
What is the place that you would like to visit still where you haven't been?
There are some, but since few years I dream to reach Kilimanjaro. I hope it will happen this year. And also I would like to visit Botswana, mm-hmm. and Okavango Delta. This is my real dream.
And when are you going in the nearest future?
My next trip is to Sudan and Eritrea. This trip will be through the desert and down the River Nile, searching old cultures and visit the desert. I really like deserts. I'd really like talking with myself. And the desert is something you really don't have a clear picture, because it's not only sand. And it has got different shapes and colors, and that's why Sudan and Eritrea and Ethiopian Danakil Desert is one also of my favorite areas to visit.
To sum up and end, I would like to ask you if you have any tips that you could give to the future bloggers or people who would like to start their career, because I understand it's not that easy in the world where now everybody can become a blogger, and mm-hmm. people are actually doing it. There's a lot of competition, right?
You are right. There are so many blogs. You can even imagine that in Poland, only from travel area, there are over 500 blogs. So you have to find your own way and try to be different than others. And taking this challenge, doing a lot of work, be regular, and have passion, be a big person.
Mm-hmm. And not to give up as well, I think.
Not to give up as well, yeah. You have definitely, for sure, on the way you will meet some difficulties and you will say, forget, I don't want to do it again. Also myself, I had that kind of time. I said, okay, I quit everything. Mm-hmm. I don't want to write anymore. But on my way, I met friends. They said, why you don't do this? And it's another step and kick to do it. Mm-hmm. So even if you think you are not good, definitely you are good, but work hard, try to be different, try to be real, which is a very important word nowadays, mm-hmm. because Photoshop can do everything, but everybody can do Photoshop. You have to be unusual, and those things people like the most.
Mm-hmm. I think that in the world of the internet nowadays, you can just pretend anyone, right?
Exactly.
So that's the biggest challenge.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on Poland Daily Culture, and don't forget to watch us tomorrow. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the Warsaw Citadel, a structure built by the Russians in the 1830s and later on used as a prison for political dissidents and fighters of the January Uprising of 1863 to 1864. Some of the prisoners held here would later on become prominent figures in Polish politics, while others were executed or sent to Siberia after imprisonment. Today, we will talk to some of the experts about the specifics of the Citadel, the January Uprising, and more history about the era. Our first guest is Michał Cieślak, junior custodian at the Museum of the 10th Pavilion in the Warsaw Citadel. The January Uprising of 1863 to 1864 is the last known uprising of Poland where multiple different factions of different countries were involved in fighting for the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And can you tell me about what faction have their inputs in it and what are their contributions?
The January Uprising was the last battle of the Polish Commonwealth as we knew it before the partitions, at least symbolically. Poles believed that they were fighting for the unity of the former Poland with strong eastern borderlands. That was supported by the fact that many army units from the areas of what we now know as Ukraine, Lithuania and Belarus fought side by side with the Poles during this uprising. Poles treated participants of the uprising as their own. They were aware of some national differences, but those were not so prevalent at that time yet. There was a very popular saying back then describing the cooperation between Poland and, in this case, Lithuania. Coat of Paulina next to the eagle, our troops went to the battle unarmed. Paulina is the historical coat of arms of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, while the eagle, the white eagle it is on the Polish coat of arms. Some, especially those who lived out east, knew a different version of this saying. In their version, it was an archangel instead of the coat of Paulina, and as we know it, Saint Michael the Archangel was the patron of Ruthenia, which we now know as Ukraine and Belarus. Unfortunately, this was the last uprising in which Poles stood united, both in the sense of the three-parted lands, as well as because people from other ethnic backgrounds fought on the Polish side. The second half of the 19th century was a period when nationalistic feelings surged, that is also when the Ukrainian national movement was formed, and so, as soon as the Russian Revolution broke out in 1905, there was no possibility of a united battle occurring ever again. Lithuanians wanted to form their own parliament, while the Ukrainians sought to form their own country, located partly in the territory of Poland. Meanwhile, Poles wanted to incorporate Lvov, Vilnius and other former Polish territories into their country.
As I know it, there's also a sizable Jewish minority during the time of the January Uprising. And did they partake in it, or what part or role did they play?
The Jews who lived in the Commonwealth were not a monolithic society. Those who lived in and near Warsaw felt very connected to the idea of Polishness. Even if they were not fully assimilated, they believed that the uprising is their common battle. It is important to mention here the informal leader of Polish Jews, Rabbi Ber Meisels, who led a grand manifestation through the streets of Warsaw. The manifestation was to show support of the Jewish community towards the January Uprising. Jews who lived in the countryside worked as informants. It was unheard of for such informants to betray Poland. That came from the Jews' hatred of Russia. Many Jews fled to Poland from Russia seeking freedom. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism was brewing in the Tsarist Russia all the way through the 19th century. They believed that nothing good can come from that country, so even though they did not take part in the uprising in the military sense, they were of great help in terms of being informants. As I said in the beginning, the Jewish society was not a monolith. Apart from those who lived in Poland for generations before, there was also a surge of Jews coming over from Germany. These Jews, much like the Baltic Germans, were patriotic, but towards the Tsar. They thought that they will be in a better position to make more money by aligning with the stronger side of the conflict. And so, those Jews were opponents of the January Uprising, as it would endanger their interests. By the end of the 19th century, they were the so-called Litvacy, who were Jews fleeing the Russian Empire from further waves of pogroms. That group, unlike those who made the same escape decades prior, barely knew any Polish, and they did not get along with the local Jews. However, they were wealthy, and through the power of their economy they were detrimental to the Polish cause, even if they did not do so intentionally. Also worth mentioning is the fact that in 1903, Józef Piłsudski himself made an address to the Jews living in the Russian partition, in which he said that the Litvacy were sabotaging the work of the Polish Socialist Party by not knowing the ins and outs of conspiracy fighting.
Pracę Polskiej Partii Socjalistycznej przez nieznajomość realiów terenu oraz zasad walki konspiracyjnej.
The alliance known as the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth struggled in unison for the last time in the January Uprising against one of the partitioning powers. Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka will tell us more about the relations between Poles, Lithuanians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians during the uprising. The January Uprising is the last time in which many different ethnicities of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth band together and fought against the Russian Empire. So in your expert opinion, what is it perceived as today?
Powstaniu styczniowemu towarzyszyła pieśń zwana pobudką.
The January Uprising was accompanied by a song named A Wake-Up Call, which was finished in the eastern borderlands. In those territories they would sing about all the coats of arms representing the four main nations of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The song went, Obok orła znak pogoni, poszła Litwa w bój bez broni, translating to, the Lithuanian coat of Pahonia stands shoulder to shoulder with the Polish eagle, Lithuania went into battle unarmed. Later it goes, the coat of Pahonia also belongs to the Ruthenian, so Belarus initiates the battle. And it ends with, together with the Pahonia, the coat of arms of Saint Michael the Archangel and Ukraine also went to battle. This reflects the four elements of the Commonwealth, the symbol of which was preserved in the Polish Air Force checkerboard. Those four squares are placeholders for the four coats of arms of the Commonwealth: Polish, Ukrainian, Belarusian and Lithuanian. Speaking of Lithuania, until this day celebrate the January Uprising as their own, separate event. The only museum devoted solely to the January Uprising is located in Lithuania, in the city of Bilevice, where Samogitian peasants fought against the Moscow abuse. Naturally, that did not give them freedom, but until this day, Samogitia is the most patriotic region of Lithuania. Same goes for Belarus, where the Tsar would erect monuments to their heroes. Belarusians erected statues for their insurgents hidden in the forests. They worshipped Konstanty Kalinowski, who was the first one to write to them and spoke their language. Finally, the Ukrainians were the last to start celebrating that anniversary. It is important to note here that Ukrainian youth went to speak with the peasants, delivering a decree called Złota Gramota, or the Golden Book, which said in golden letters that the peasants are now the citizens of a new Ukrainian country as a part of the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, those peasants killed those boys. There were about 15 of them, and they gave over the remaining ones to the Russians. They either died by hanging or in Siberia. That was the understanding of the concept of freedom. Today, all three major Polish uprisings, Kościuszko, November and January, encompasses 7 nations, apart from Poland. Latvia had their share of uprisings, for example in the east of the country, in Latgale. That uprising was led by the Brol-Platter family, one of whom, Tomasz Brol-Platter, was shot by a firing squad in Duneberg, Latgale's main city. Additionally, Poles organized secret clubs in Tartu, Estonia, which led the way for the Estonian freedom groups. Finally, the last daughter of the Commonwealth, Moldova. The Battle of Constantla in June 1863 broke out by surprise, when a group of patriotic Poles burrowed through Turkey and later Moldova to support the insurgents in their homeland. Initially, Moldovan military stopped them in their tracks, but later they made up, and the soldiers would tend to the wounded, all while drinking plenty of wine. They also agreed that they should not enter Russia by force, because then Moldova would be in danger. This leaves us with the last battlefield of the January uprising. The uprising finished beyond Lake Baikal, where 380 exiled men caused an uprising. 4 of them were shot, and the important detail is that each of them came from a different country of the Commonwealth. Ukrainian, he was the leader, Kotkowski was from Poland, Reiner from Belarus, and Cyliński from Lithuania. That day, the Commonwealth was shot at the bay of Lake Baikal.
Z Ukrainy przywódca, z Polski Kotkowski, z Białorusi Reiner i z Wileńszczyzny Cyliński. Rozstrzelano nam nad brzegami Bajkału Rzeczpospolitą.
The January Uprising was one of the most pivotal moments in the era when Poland was partitioned. The Poles would later on spend decades debating whether or not they had taken the correct path of resistance. During the interwar era, the veterans were treated as heroes, and they would later on serve as an inspiration for the soldiers fighting in the 1944 Warsaw Uprising. That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Poland Daily Travel. We're here in the forest, and I'm not lost because I know exactly where I am.
Hello, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where we're taking a snowy trip to the forest. Not a lot of people know that Poland's forests occupy 29% of the country. The vast majority are state or national. We'll be visiting the forest north of Warsaw at Jabłona in Mazowiecki province. This rich tract of woodland lies east of the Wisła, or the Vistula River, and forms a vital part of the green belt around Warsaw, which includes Campinos National Park, a UNESCO-listed biosphere. On our tour, we will be guided by a forest ranger who will give us the lay of the land in one of the forests that form the lungs of the capital city. So stick with us as Poland Daily Travel goes green in the Jabłona forest.
So these are the exotic birds. Hey, we're back. Poland Daily Travel. We're here in the state forest in Jabłona, and that's in Mazowiecki province. Here, we're looking at some of the species of birds that are found right here in the state forest. It's a beautiful forest, I can tell you, and especially on a wonderful snowy day.
Yes, we can see here some examples of birds that live in the Polish forest. These two, we can spot
this
only
one and that
this one and another.
And
we can spot only during the winter.
Okay.
This is very interesting because it's disposed of acorns.
It's a soika. I don't know what that is.
I don't know
know
how it's in English.
But we'll put a thing under that so people can see what the names of these are.
It feeds with acorn
in English
and store them on the ground.
It does what?
They feed acorn. Eat acorn.
It eats corn.
Acorn.
Acorns. It eats acorns from an oak tree.
From the oak tree.
Oh, from an oak tree. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
And store them in the ground.
Stores them in the ground.
But often forget where
it forgets where its acorns are.
Where they hid.
Where it hides them.
Hides them.
So it hides acorns like a squirrel, but it forgets. Okay. Which bird was that? Which one? Which bird? This one?
This one
here. The soika is
very interesting.
Isn't there a singer in Poland called soika?
Yeah. Sorry?
There's a singer in Poland called soika, I think.
Soika.
Yeah, soika, a singer.
It's a different pronunciation.
Different pronunciation. Okay. Next.
What we got? It's beneficial for the forestry.
Because it hides the acorns underground.
Because this falls oaks.
And then it will start the oak tree.
Oak tree.
So it's basically planting oak trees.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Exactly, literally.
Ah, that's incredible. I didn't know that. Well, we must find out what the soika is in English. Next, what do we have?
It's really educational board. We can learn to distinguish bird by their feather or by their eggs.
Ah, I see. So we have the feathers here. All
there are
along
examples
here.
of feathers.
Yeah. And then examples of different eggs.
Examples of different eggs. We can learn to distinguish them.
Uh-huh. And which of these birds are the most visible, the most popular?
The most popular, in my opinion, is ground tit.
The ground tit?
The ground tit.
Okay.
It's very beneficial.
Yeah. It's very beneficial? Why? Why is it so beneficial?
Because it's insects and larvae.
Ah, it eats larvae.
And ground quantities.
And big it eats a lot of them, big quantities, yeah. What about this fella? It's very distinguished, isn't it?
It's very distinguished.
The dudek,
it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's not very popular.
I've never seen one in Poland.
I've seen them, but it's not very popular. Okay. If you have a piece of fortune, we can spot it.
If you get really lucky, right?
Lucky.
But this is a woodpecker?
Woodpecker.
A kind of
black woodpecker. Kind of woodpecker.
It's got a red crest, though, on its head.
It's present here.
And I don't hear any right now. Yeah. Interesting. Exotic birds that we can find right here in the forest.
It's completely black apart from his red cap.
Fantastic. Listen, exotic birds right here in the forest in Jablonina. Let's see what else we can find. What do you think, Shemek? Let's go for a walk.
Let's go. Oh, I'm a little tired.
Hard work, isn't it?
Hard work.
It's hard work, man. Okay, so what have we got here? I see some animals on here and some special type of foliage. What is this all about?
We are beside the bog. We are beside the bog in a lower terrain.
The swamp.
We can see the swamp.
Swampy water.
A piece of swamp in water. Yeah. This board tells us something about the vegetation present in the boggy areas.
Okay.
Here,
so this is the vegetation we see in the swampy areas.
So,
okay.
Only in the swampy areas.
Okay.
And here we can see the examples of animals, beaver and its nest, and a unique species of turtle in Poland, on the area of our forest district. Okay. It's close to Lublin, to Roztocze.
So we want
eastern parts of Poland.
Would we see it here?
No.
Only
we cannot spot it here.
In southeast
Poland. We can spot it. We can spot beaver.
We can see a beaver here.
A beaver is numerous in Poland.
And a beaver but a beaver is not an animal to approach, is it?
It's difficult to observe it.
Why is it difficult to observe them?
It's very easy to fright it.
Ah, they're quite timid. They're quite afraid.
It's very timid. It's very timid animal.
Huh. And
as well as white boar active during the night, rather during the night than the day.
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal
animal.
It's
nocturnal.
more nocturnal.
Yeah. Okay.
Journal.
And this is a beaver nest.
It's a beaver nest.
So if we were to come back in the spring, we would see a huge amount of activity in this pond and swampy area, wouldn't we?
We can see activity of vegetation.
Right. First of
blooming flowers.
Yeah. The flowers are coming out. All of these things. The animals are more active.
Yes.
They come out of hibernation. Does a beaver hibernate? I don't know.
Their activity is lesser.
They're just very quiet.
Very quiet.
This time of year. They're not building anyway. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Okay, let's continue on our journey. Thanks. Yeah. I have never had such good berries as I have seen in Poland, and actually that goes for a lot of different fruits. It's unusual, the quality of the things you can get. Just going to the regular market. I mean, do you get these kind of berries and things growing in this forest?
We can see here the educational board, which presents non-timber benefits benefits from forest. Here we can see the most popular berry. It's a bilberry.
Blueberry, yeah.
Bilberry.
It's my favorite too.
Your favorite. Is growing here. This forest surrounding the Legionowo and Warsaw are abundant in bilberry.
A lot of blueberries.
A lot of bilberry.
And these are wild ones. These are not the so-called American blueberries.
It's very tasty, very popular.
Oh no, it's a borówka, which is like American blueberry.
It's a Polish name of it's a Polish name of it.
Okay.
One of the Polish names.
But these are big berries, or?
It's a bilberry. In English, it's bilberry.
It's quite big?
No.
You have the smaller one.
It's smaller than American one.
Okay, smaller than American.
Smaller. Okay. You can see the cranberry.
Cranberries are good. I like cranberries.
But lesser popular here because it's growing on the swampy areas.
Okay.
Swampy areas.
So some of the places we looked at earlier, they'd be growing in the summer. Okay. I know where to come in the summer. Yeah.
Here you can see wild strawberry. It's smaller than strawberry, but in my opinion, much more tasty.
Much tastier. Okay. All right. What else have we got?
Here we can see blackberry. It's growing on the area of our forest district, but beyond the river Narew.
Beyond the Narew River. Beautiful river, by the way.
Beyond the Narew River.
Very pretty river. Yeah. Nearby.
Here you can see the hazel.
Hazelnuts.
Hazelnuts. And here canis rose. And here mushrooms.
More mushrooms.
More mushrooms. Crop mushrooms.
You can never get away from mushrooms in Poland. But that's good. A lot of different kinds of berries. And I can find them all here. Am I allowed to pick them if I come here? No.
It's completely legal.
It's legal, okay. Good.
Besides protected, especially protected areas like nature reserve or national park, we can collect all berries in the Polish forest.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The access is free. Picking up the berries and the mushrooms is free.
So we can come here
for foreigners too.
We can come here. We can go around. We can pick the berries, and we're okay. And for foreigners too.
And take it away.
And for foreigners too.
For foreigners
Foreigners can come here and pick as many berries as you want.
Foreigners in Poland.
It's absolutely legal.
Legal. Foreigners in Poland are treated like Polish citizens. Have the same rights.
Great. Polish hospitality. Come to the park. Be treated just like a Polish person. Pick all the berries and mushrooms that you want. Poland Daily Travel. More in store. Stay with us. Come on. Thanks. That was good.